Hey, what is up guys, Mergaman4 here, and today I'll be reviewing the final Sylvester McCoy season to be released in the collection, Season 25. After what could be called a bumpy start to the era with the previous season, I don't think it's controversial for me to suggest that this is widely considered a significant upgrade, with the cast and crew having found their footing and having a much stronger idea of what they wanted to do with the show. So, let's explore Season 25. Celebrating Doctor Who's silver anniversary, one might expect a big ol' continuity fest. And yes, there are plenty of nods to the past, but there's lots of new stuff too. I think this balance is something that 80s Doctor Who often struggled with, but here the show is starting to get a handle on how to get the best of both worlds. That's not to say that Season 25 is perfect, as we'll discuss, but it's fondly remembered for a reason. So let's start at the beginning with Remembrance of the Daleks. It's fair to say that this season opens with a bang. Or should I say, several bangs. Remembrance of the Daleks brings a confidence to the show that hadn't been seen for a number of years, and the result is a pretty much universally adored story even decades later. So adored that in Doctor Who Magazine's 50th anniversary poll, it made it into the top 10 stories of all time. However, maybe it's because I wasn't alive at the time, but if I'm honest, I don't quite get the hype. There is a lot that I like here. The Countermeasures group is a fun alternative to UNIT, there's some great social commentary, I love a Dalek Civil War, and there's some seriously impressive action set pieces. But despite all that, I can't help but feel the story itself is a little, I don't know, light? Like, there's a lot of great moments, but for whatever reason, I just don't feel the whole has as much substance as it should. I think in part this is to do with Davros, whose limited involvement is excellent, but I really think he should have either had a meteor role or not been here at all. It feels really off for him to show up for effectively just a single scene. It's the kind of twist that feels like it should happen around the halfway point, rather than 10 minutes before the conclusion. But yeah, I do think the story perhaps prioritizes spectacle a bit too much. Entertaining though that spectacle is. But even if I don't think of it quite as highly as fandom does, it is still a lot of fun, so I'll be giving Remembrance of the Daleks an 8 out of 10. I feel like the Happiness Patrol is a story that most people either love or hate, with not much in between. And I can understand why. It's very in your face, and it's fair to say that not everything is as effective in execution as it is on paper. I think one thing most people do agree on, though, is that it's a brilliant concept. A society that mandates happiness on pain of death is brimming with potential, and makes for some of the most striking social commentary that the show has ever done. I adore the contrast between the pink clothes and bright makeup against the drabness of the city streets. And while the Executioner Candyman is a controversial choice, I'm a fan. I do think more could have been done with him, but I like what we get. The story also boasts a fantastic guest cast, with Sheila Hancock and Georgina Hale putting in some of the finest performances of the era. And if you still weren't quite sold on Sylvester McCoy as the Doctor, this story is sure to do the trick with his famous "look me in the eye" speech. I also love how Helen A gets her comeuppance, not just by the citizens rising up against her, but by finally being forced to face sadness for herself. Just about the only element that doesn't work for me is the pipe people. I honestly completely forgot they were even in this when I went to rewatch it, and while the designs look cheap, the performances are unengaging, and I just don't think they add much story-wise. They're the only aspect of this I'd rather just ditch completely. Otherwise though, the Happiness Patrol, while not perfect, has a lot to offer and certainly makes me very happy to watch it. So for that, I'll be giving it an 8 out of 10. here we have it, Doctor Who's official 25th anniversary special. Instead of the multi-Doctor celebrations of years past, it was decided that Silver Nemesis would be a little more low-key, with the only returning element being the Cybermen to match the anniversary's silver description. Unfortunately, it's just not very good. I think Silver Nemesis' biggest fault is that it just has too much going on. Instead of taking one main aspect and fleshing it out, this story instead spends its runtime jumping between numerous different factions all after the same thing, without taking the time to stop and make us care about any of it. It's at best disorienting, and it's even more frustrating when the story grinds to a halt to give us disposable comic relief, which, frankly, isn't all that funny. Now, of our numerous factions, Lady Painford is easily the most interesting aspect. But like I said, the story hardly has the chance to properly explore either her history with the Doctor or her goals with the Nemesis. It's a good base, but very surface level. The Cybermen aren't bad, but they're incredibly bland and really could have been any monster. I get their inclusion, I just wish they were more Cyberman-y. Although, to be fair, that's an accusation that could be leveled at a great number of Cyberman stories. Finally, we have De Flores and the Nazis, and why are these guys even here? I don't know what they're supposed to add. I mean, at least the Cybermen have the inherent excitement of it's one of the Doctor's greatest foes, even if they're not well utilized, but I really think a lot of this story's problems would disappear if these guys were just chopped out. And like these various villains, the eponymous Nemesis is just too vaguely defined to care. Ultimately, I think Silver Nemesis is a classic case of a story that has an interesting core of an idea that just gets utterly lost in the execution. So I'll be giving Silver Nemesis a 3.5 out of 10. The Greatest Show in the Galaxy has always been a highlight of the Seventh Doctor's era for me. The circus setting is a fantastic fit for a Doctor Who story, with that inherent contrast between fun and creepy utilized to excellent effect. And while the story perhaps doesn't explore it as much as I'd like, I think there's a lot to appreciate about the psychic circus starting out as a genuinely happy and joyful place, only to be corrupted over time into something evil. This results in some great conflict within the members of the circus, as some have embraced the new status quo, while others are determined to escape it at any cost. The story also stirs up plenty of compelling drama by pitting the circus visitors against one another, as they're forced one by one into the ring to entertain the audience or face death. And indeed, while I enjoy the core concept, it is the characters and their interactions that truly bring this story to life. Ian Reddington's performance as the Chief Clown is a particular highlight, turning a role with not that much substance on paper into an all-time great villain, but also the self-interested and cunning Captain Cook, the sympathetic werewolf Mags, the enigmatic Deadbeat, the incredibly cheesy Ringmaster, just to name a few. It's filled to the brim with characters that are just a joy to watch and who stick in the mind well after the credits roll. I do think the story takes a bit too long to get going, and the ultimate climax is honestly a little lame, though at least it's topped off with that. But these are ultimately minor complaints in the face of everything else. The Greatest Show in the Galaxy is always a joy to revisit, so I'll be giving it a 9 out of 10. So how do I feel about Doctor Who's 25th anniversary? Well, it is a massive step up from the previous season, which is my all-time least favorite. In particular, Sylvester McCoy has really found his footing in the role, and Ace makes for a much more compelling companion than Mal. It's unfortunate that the actual 25th anniversary story isn't all that great, although the season does at least provide us a worthwhile alternative in Remembrance of the Daleks. But I won't lie, when you've got just 4 stories, even a single dud can leave a notable mark. And for that reason, it's a season I thoroughly enjoy, but can't quite love. So with that said, how does Season 25 compare to the other classic seasons I've reviewed so far? Well, within the season, The Greatest Show in the Galaxy comes first place with a 9 out of 10, followed by The Happiness Patrol and Remembrance of the Daleks, both with 8 out of 10, and finally Silver Nemesis with a 3.5 out of 10. Altogether, this puts Season 25's average score at 7.13, putting it in 10th place out of the 16 seasons I've reviewed so far. This increases the average score of the 1980s ever so slightly to 6.91 out of 10, And as we finish our first Doctor, Sylvester McCoy receives a final average of 6.79. An increase, but not enough to shift his position in the ranking. As for Season 25's writers, Graham Curry tops out the season, entering the list in 8th place with a score of 8 out of 10. Stephen Wyatt moves up to 12th, also with an average score of 8. Ben Aronovich is now in 14th with a new average of 7.75 out of 10. And finally, Kevin Clark enters the list in 40th, with a score of 3.5 out of 10, only one spot from the bottom. In the producers' ranking, John Nathan Turner remains 4th out of 5, despite a slight score increase, while in the script editor ranking, Andrew Cartmell's final score of 6.79 isn't quite enough to shift his position from 8th. In terms of directors, Alan Waring's score goes up to an 8.67, landing him in 3rd. Andrew Morgan's score increases to a 6, moving him up to 29th, while Chris Clough's 2 stories keep him in exactly the same place with no change of average. Looking at the season premieres I've reviewed so far, Remembrance of the Daleks enters the list in 3rd, with the premiere average getting ever so close to breaching a 7, while The Greatest Show in the Galaxy enters the finale ranking in 4th, increasing the finale average for the first time in a while to a 6.75 out of 10. Also the first in some time, a new entry to the top 10 as The Greatest Show in the Galaxy enters in 10th place. Unfortunately, Season 25 also contributes to the bottom 10, with Silver Nemesis coming in 5th from the bottom. And for the first time since starting this series of reviews, the bottom 10 is now entirely comprised of stories that I would consider truly bad. In the full ranking, The Greatest Show in the Galaxy comes in 10th, The Happiness Patrol 23rd, Remembrance of the Daleks 33rd, and Silver Nemesis 86th, out of a total of 90 stories. And those are my thoughts on Season 25. A pretty solid run, though not without its flaws. But what do you think of this season? Is it top tier? Overrated? Does it physically hurt you to see how low I put Remembrance of the Daleks? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. And with that, Burgerman 4, over and out, and I'll see you guys later.